You know that exact moment when you're sitting at your desk, calculator app open on your phone under the table, doing the math on whether your savings could actually cover 6 months if you just quit and bet on yourself, and then you close it before anyone sees and go back to the meeting like nothing happened. I'm Fred, and I obsess over the real mechanics of these decisions, so you don't have to live inside that mental loop. 532,000 people closed that calculator and actually jumped last month. Most of them just made a $250,000 mistake they don't even see coming yet. Stick with me. By the end, you'll know exactly which side of that coin flip you're actually on. Let me hit you with a number that should stop you cold. 532,319. That's how many people filed business applications in January the 2026 alone. Not the whole year. 1 month. You're sitting there thinking about starting a business, and you've got 500,000 other people thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time. Why does that matter to you? Because back in 2019, that number was 280,000. We've jumped 50%. This isn't a trend you can wait out. This is your new competition baseline. But here's where it gets personal. Of those 532,000 applications, 147,000 are what the census calls high propensity filings. Translation? These aren't hobbyists. These are people planning to hire staff, scale operations, and compete directly with whatever you're thinking about launching. They're going all in. The pace is accelerating too. December to January jumped 7.2%. Every single month, more people are choosing to bet on themselves, which means every month you wait, you're starting further behind. Now pay attention to this number because it's the one that changes everything. Only 30,000 of those 532,000 will actually become functioning employer businesses within a year. Do that math with me. That's 5.6%, which means 94.4% of people who take that first step never make it to actually running a business. Here's the question you need to answer. What separates the 5% who make it from the 95% and who don't? Because small businesses now create over 70% of all new jobs. Your decision to start or not start isn't just about you anymore. It's about whether you're going to be part of building the economy or watching from the sidelines. So why is everyone suddenly trying to become their own boss? Here's the thing. The Treasury Department looked at the data, and they're not calling this a trend. They're calling it structural. That word matters. Structural means permanent. Structural. Your relationship with traditional employment just got rewired, and then there's no going back to how it was. COVID-19 didn't just change where you work. It shattered the psychological contract you thought you had. Remember when job security meant something? And when loyalty to a company was supposed to protect you? You watched that evaporate on a Zoom call, and something inside you broke. Monthly applications are 50% higher than 2019. Every single month. This is your new normal. The corporate ladder you thought was safe, it now looks riskier than betting on yourself. Think about that shift. And here's why your decision matters beyond just you. Small businesses account for 70% of net new job growth since 2019. The entire economic recovery is sitting on the shoulders of first-time founders. You're not just choosing a career path. You're choosing whether to be part of the engine or a passenger. What's driving you and everyone else to consider this leap? Control. Workers are trading stability for control over 3 things: your time, your decisions, your financial ceiling. You'd rather own 100% of uncertain than 0% of guaranteed. But here's the brutal irony you need to face. The same forces pushing you toward independence are colliding with the worst capital access environment in over a decade. You want to start precisely when it's hardest to fund. Alright, let's talk about what actually happens after you launch. This is where your dream meets mathematical reality. 20% of new businesses fail within their first year. 1 in 5. You overcame your fear, you quit your job, you launched. And you've got a 1 in 5 chance of being done within 12 months. Why? You ran out of money before you figured out how to make enough of it. That's the game. But let's say you beat year 1. You're in the 80%. Here's your prize. By year 5, your survival odds drop to 49%. Read that again. After 5 years of sacrifice, missed birthdays, drained savings, 70-hour weeks, you're looking at a coin flip. Heads you survive, tails you don't. Want to talk about truly making it? Only 34% reach 10 years. Less than 1 in 3. Long-term survival isn't a realistic goal, it's elite status. Here's the compound brutality you need to understand. 532,000 applications filed last month. 30,000 become real businesses. 20% fail year 1. You're down to 24,000. Year 5, 14,700. Year 10, 10,200 survivors from what over 500,000 who started. But pay attention to this. It's the inflection point that changes everything. SBA data shows if you survive 5 years, your odds of hitting year 10 jump to 70%. There's a threshold. Cross it, and the rules change in your favor. Don't cross it, and you're part of the 66% who wash out, and survival isn't equal. Information and transportation sectors have lower 5-year rates than healthcare or agriculture. Your industry choice isn't about passion. It's about probability. Each failed business is a person who bet their savings, their relationships, their health on a dream that the math says probably won't work. Those 147,000 serious January applications, fewer than 50,000 survive 5 years. You need to decide if you're built to be in that 50,000 or if you're fooling yourself. So if the odds are this brutal, why do people keep trying? And more importantly, why are you still sitting on the fence? 49% of adults globally say fear of failure is why they won't start. That number's up since 2019. Half the world's too afraid to try, even though we're in the biggest entrepreneurial surge in history. What does that tell you about the gap between wanting something and having the guts to grab it? Here's your paradox. 40% of people see good opportunities to start a business right now, clear market gaps, problems begging for solutions, but 85% of those people will never act. They'll recognize the opportunity and let it die because the risk feels too big. Is that going to be you? The number one predictor of whether you'll succeed isn't your business idea, it's whether you believe you can pull it off. The research calls it self-perceived capability. And here's what should terrify you. That metric is dropping among younger founders despite having more resources than any generation in history. You have YouTube tutorials, online courses, AI tools your parents never dreamed of, and you're less confident than they were. Why? Because you can see every way it might fail. You've researched yourself into paralysis. Previous generations didn't have that curse. They just started and figured it out. Despite the fear, 70% of people view entrepreneurship as high status. You want the founder identity. You want people to see you as someone who bet on themselves. But you're terrified of what happens if you lose. Here's the question. Is your fear protecting you from inevitable failure? Or is it the only thing standing between you and the life you actually want? Because the math says 49% make it to year 5. That's a coin flip, not a death sentence. You've wrestled with the fear. You've decided you're ready. Now you hit the wall that kills more dreams than doubt ever could, money. Treasury research is crystal clear. Access to credit is the number one reason new businesses die before they start. And you're trying to launch in a high interest rate environment that makes borrowing expensive and approval brutal. Remember that gap. 532,000 applications, but only 30,000 become real businesses. That's not just psychology. That's capital. Most people can't get the money to move from idea to operation. Here's your structural trap. The same independence driving you away from corporate jobs strips away your financial credibility. You're leaving stable paychecks and employer verification right when you need banks to trust you most. Your debt-to-income ratio matters more than your business plan. Your credit score matters more than your market research. Quit your job and you just became high risk. The timing couldn't be worse for you. Entrepreneurial demand is sky high. Capital supply is restricted and expensive. Basic economics is working against you. Just bootstrap it, people say. And sure, digital-first businesses need less upfront capital. No retail lease, no equipment loans. But here's the trap. Low capital requirements mean low scaling ability. You might start, but you can't grow fast enough to survive before better capitalized competitors crush you. Access to capital isn't equal either. Founders with existing wealth weather this environment. First-generation entrepreneurs without family money or investor networks, you're climbing a steeper mountain from a lower starting point. Undercapitalization drives that 20% first-year failure rate. One bad month kills your business when 3 more months of runway would have saved it. Is that going to be your story? Now let's talk about what the statistics don't capture. What failure actually costs you. Each business that fails in year 1 represents someone who burned through their savings. Tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes 6 figures. Gone. That was your house down payment. Your kid's college fund. Your retirement security. When the stock market loses your money, you blame the market. When your business loses it, you blame yourself. Every single day. The research doesn't measure marriages that broke under financial stress. Friendships you lost because you were always too busy building. your daughter's recital you missed for a client meeting, your son's birthday you worked through. These don't show up in census data, but they show up in your life, permanently. Business failure doesn't just take your money, it takes your identity. You tied your self-worth to this venture in a way you never did with a job. When it fails, you don't think that didn't work out. You think, I wasn't good enough. I failed everyone who believed in me. 49% who don't make it to year 5 carry that weight forever. Think about opportunity cost. 5 years building a failed business means 5 years you didn't climb the corporate ladder. 5 years you didn't develop new skills. 5 years of retirement contributions you'll never get back. The compound interest you lost doesn't just disappear. It echoes through your entire financial future. The stress destroys your health too. Cash flow crises. Late night panic about payroll. Constant uncertainty. It shows up as insomnia, anxiety, depression, weight gain. Skip doctor appointments because you don't have time or can't afford the deductible. When you invest family savings and fail, you don't just hurt yourself. Your kids' educational opportunities shrink. Your family's housing stability weakens. The generational wealth transfer that builds long-term security, gone. 49% cite fear of failure as why they won't start. They're not being irrational. They've calculated what losing actually costs, have you? Because if you haven't, you're not ready. Here's the threat you're probably not preparing for. And I need to be clear. This is projection, not proven fact. Less than 30% of new founders are actively planning for AI disruption. Jem calls it the major silent risk for 2026 to 2030. 70% of people starting businesses right now have zero strategy for the technology shift that experts say will reshape entire industries. Are you in that 70%? Here's the irony that should wake you up. Those tech-enabled service businesses experiencing the steepest growth, most vulnerable to AI automation. And founders in these exact sectors show the lowest preparation rates. You're walking into the industry A. I will hit first, completely blind. Is that smart? And this is speculation, but think about your timeline. Launch in 2026 without an AI strategy, and your value proposition might be obsolete before you hit that critical 5-year survival mark. You build something functional today. AI solves the same problem faster and cheaper in 3 years. Your survival clock just accelerated, and you didn't even know it. Maybe that declining self-perceived capability among younger founders isn't fear. Maybe it's accurate intuition. Maybe you sense that traditional business skills won't be enough in an AI-integrated economy. Maybe your hesitation is smart. Here's your choice. Integrate AI and gain exponential advantages in efficiency and scale, or ignore it and watch better prepared competitors make you obsolete. 70% aren't thinking about this. Don't be part of that 70%. Your future self is watching you make this decision right now. Give them something to be proud of.